What's up guys, Smash Adams here, and today I'm going to showcase an updated deck profile on Chaos Dragons. Now with a few small edits here and there to the main deck, more so than the extra deck, I was able to still get the same amount of potential that it did in the past, especially with getting OTKs, getting more board presence, and just able to get a whole ton of control overall. The deck is still great nonetheless. I was contemplating on running the tour guide engine in this build, but I figured since you can't really go wrong with just spamming dragons here and there and a whole lot more chaos monsters as well, I just figured I'd cut my losses, try tour guide in another engine, which I will showcase this week, and just try something a little bit outside of my comfort zone and just not rely on tour guide as much. Even though it's good, I just wanted to try something different with the deck. The deck is still strong to this day, especially with Trag at 3 and Allure at 3. The ban list has really been in the deck's favor since you really had no issue with synergy and all that in the past. It definitely bumps up the chances of getting more draw power as well. I like this deck. It's one of those decks that I've never let go of, especially now, and it's especially if you're one of those people who loves OTK factors and is a dragon fanatic like me. This is one of the decks that I've had a strong connection to, and I love it. So, I'm going to show you all the deck, explain a couple of my tech choices, and without further ado, here is Chaos Dragons. Start off, of course, we still got the 3 Lightpulsar Dragons, your main key component to the OTKs that you have at your disposal. Usually you rely on this in Red Eyes just to get more board presence, and all that said and done, usually if you have 3, you can't really go wrong with this deck. You can run 2 if you wish, but I would just recommend running a playset. That way you can get more combos off, but it's entirely up to you with what you do with the lineup. But if you run 1, don't bother running the deck at all, because 3 is the better option in this case, or 2 if you wish. Next we got triple Darkflare Dragon. Now, a lot of people can argue that it's not really needed, but in my opinion, I think it's still useful since you need an alternative in case Red Eyes were to somehow get banished or controlled. You have to have something else to fall back on. You can't always rely on Red Eyes and just think, oh, hey, they're not going to touch my Red Eyes. Here's the thing. Red Eyes is good for a reason because of this deck and many other Dragon decks as well, but more so this because it was consistent enough to be played with Lightpulsar. You can do this, spam the board and whatnot, and then just sit on a Dragon, right? But say if they banish Red Eyes, guess what? Unless you have Dimensional Alchemist to bring it back or DDR, yeah, unless you have another option to fall back on, you're screwed. So running Darkflare is another ultimatum. And although you don't use the secondary effect as much, it's still pretty useful depending on what situation you're in. But usually having a beater like Darkflare is never a gimmick. 1 Red Eyes, the best dragon in the deck, especially with getting floaters and all. 1 Dark Armed as your alternative for Eclipse Wyvern's targeting ability. And usually getting darks into your graveyard, is exactly 3 darks into your graveyard, is never a problem either. Even though you don't rely on spamming it out as much, it's good fodder for Allure of Darkness as well. And of course, for the last bit of the dragons we've got, still the 1 Eclipse Wyvern, and of course the 1 tech of Divine Dragon Apocralyph to recycle back your Red Eyes, then banish it, and then spam another dragon, and then some. Divine Dragon puts in a whole lot of work. A lot of people underestimate this card. So that's it for the dragons. Now on to the Chaos Monsters, which are, of course, 1 BLS, hope you all can see that, and 2 Chaos Sorcerers. I decided to run 2 because I'm running some other stuff in the deck, and I wanted to keep up to date with the current format for September 2016. So it's still good to this day. Even though I ran 3 in the past, it never really gave me an issue, but it's balanced enough regardless. So running 2, it's still helped. Now on to the hand trap lineup. It's pretty heavy, especially since Trag's at 3. We got 3 Gorz. Usually, if you take a lot of damage, you can sit on this, build a wall with this and a token, depending on the damage you took, and you have no worries until you get whatever you need. Next we got 3 Trageodia, good for level manipulation, good for just stalling, and it can be pretty beefy depending on how many cards you have in your hand. even though you don't rely on going into battle with it as much, or the level manipulation ability, it's still pretty good to stall with. 1, 2, and 3 Effect Veiler. I still run these because, let's be real, even though Cosmos and Monarchs got hit, look, monster effects are still a problem now. You never know what you're going to go up against. And, of course, we run 2 Honest because, hey, you do run light monsters in this deck, so it never hurts to exert more attack points onto their score. So that's it for the hand traps. Now on to the Lightsworn engine because it complements the deck. We run 3 Lumina, self-explanatory for the first turn Michael play, or if you want to get Dante out, all you need is to bring this and another one out. You got a Dante. And of course, triple Raiden for the first turn Michael play, or if you want to get Black Rose or anything level 7 based, or if you want to use this first turn to mill, it's never really a problem. Since a majority of the time you're going to be getting hand traps anyway, sitting on this is never an issue. And 2 Lyla, because it's good. It's an MST with legs. So that's it for the monsters. Now onto the spells. The spells are pretty short, but hey, it's worth it. We run 3 Allure of Darkness. I gotta tell you, this card puts in work, especially with the amount of darks that you run. You can't really go wrong with consistency issues. 2 Charge of the Light Brigade to get your Lightsworns and recruit them to your hand. And Solar Recharge for draw power and mill power, because you do mill a lot in this deck, and you need a lot of consistent plays to go off of. So this is the card to go for next to Charge and the others. So, that's it for the main deck. Now on to the extra deck. The extra deck changed drastically, but you know what? It was worth it. We run 1 Goyo Guardian. I hope to make this into a Coral Dragon one day, but for now, Goyo Guardian is working out just fine. And then for the 7s, we run 1 Black Rose for the nuking ability. It's really good with Lightpulsar, and especially if you have just Red Eyes in your graveyard, you have no problem. And 1 Moonlight Rose Dragon. You don't rely on it that much, but it's another option to fall back on, especially if you're running into 5 or higher matchups. You can bounce their stuff back the minute it's special summoned, and then some. But yeah, Moonlight Rose Dragon is pretty good. 1 Michael for banishing whatever your opponent has, and then just clear your opponent's board, and then just go straight for game afterwards. And plus he can be special summoned with Red Eyes. That's the cool thing about him too. I may run a second one, but we'll see. And of course we run the 8s, which are 1 Stardust, 1 Spark, 1 Scrap Dragon. Let me get these out of the way here. And 1 Hot Red, in case you want to just nuke whatever they have, if they're in attack mode, of course. And then if you have a Lightpulsar or whatnot, you can spam it out, get a dark target from your graveyard, and then some. Mad you can't attack with the other monsters you bring back, but hey, it's worth it. But Hot Red is pretty good. And of course, 1 Scarlight. I was able to get one, and it works just great. I'm mad it doesn't work with Lightpulsar, since the whole burn ability makes it miss timing, but you know what? It's also a good target to have in your graveyard, especially if you want to bring this back with Lightpulsar. So it's another option to fall back on. So, yeah, you can't really go wrong with Scarlight. He's really good against scales, against anything effect-based that special summons. So, basically, after the battle phase, you can hit them, and then, bam, hit them for another 500, depending on how many effect monsters that you special summoned in attack mode. Next, we've got the XCs, which are 1 Dante. I'm only running this because Minerva is still high-priced, but it's still good nonetheless, and its defense is good too. And he can be really beefy, especially since you give him like 1,500, since you mill like a bunch of cards anyway. And then we got the 4s, which are, of course, Queen Dragoon, generic, 1 Castel, and 1 101. Your basic generic rank 4s. This is really good with Lightpulsar. Even though it's effectiveness negated, you can still do some really decent combos with it. 1 Beatrice. This is a godsend for this deck, and it makes it easy to not only dump your dragons, but also dump your Wyvern to get Red Eyes into the banish zone quick enough to be recruited. This is basically your replacement for Lavalval Chain. And to end the main deck lineup and the extra deck lineup, 1 M7. And you can't really go wrong with this card. Just bouncing back whatever you want, monster base from your graveyard straight to your hand, and then you can use it afterwards. It's all the sweeter. And plus, he's really high powered for a 2700 beater. So that's it for Chaos Dragons, guys. Hope you all enjoyed this little deck profile that I put together. Please leave a like and favorite if you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions, leave them. I'm open to them. Hit me up in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, this is Smash Adams signing out.